Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and today's review, which has been released 12 AM UK time on a Friday, which can only be one thing. It is a brand new club for 2025 and it's this. It is a Wilson Dynapwr Carbon fairway wood. So if you're new to my channel, I've actually already reviewed the Carbon driver. It's a new Wilson Carbon driver, and I have reviewed the Max fairway wood version of this as well. So do check out the channel for them. So the reason I picked this up and those other clubs as well is because Wilson have been making strides and strides with their woods. And they're now some of the best woods out there. They've really caught up with your TaylorMades, really caught up with your Callaways, your Titleists, etc. So it's definitely worth having a look at them on, well, brand new and even on the second-hand market. You know, the previous Dynapower range as well was really good, which does grate my gears a little bit. Not the fact that the previous Dynapower range was really good, that's fantastic, you know, big huge fan of Wilson, always have been, but it's the fact they didn't change the name. So they decided to bring out a whole new range and didn't change the name, kept the name exactly the same. I mean, I would have liked them to go on Dynapower 2 or, you know, Dynapower, I don't know, just change the name a little bit, like, you know, TaylorMade does, you know, Titleists do, etc. So you can tell, right, this is the 2025 version, this is the 2023 version. It's a little bit annoying, but I guess that's just me. Maybe next time, Wilson, please do change the name, especially if you keep with the Dynapower in the future, so we don't have another new range of Dynapowers to replace the old range of Dynapowers. And so I know no one knows what Dynapower they're getting. So yeah, but anyway, that's my issue with them. But that's the only issue I have with them, because they are really good. So as always, what we're going to do is we're going to have a closer look at this club, come back here, go through all the technology that's in this Dynapower Carbon fairway wood, which is definitely suited for the better players out there. And then we'll go down to range, going to throw some figures at you, and then we're going to come back here for the ACS golf scale. All right, see you in a bit. So there you go, and it is a beautiful looking thing. The whole new Wilson Dynapwr range. Last year, well, 2 years ago when they released the new stuff, it was really good looking then, and this stuff, they just improved the looks even more. You know, really smart looking clubs. A lot of bag appeal, I think, especially when it comes down to the head cover, which I dropped earlier, but there it is. You know, that is such a smart looking head cover. They're really smashing it with their looks, Wilson. You know, they've always had really good looking player irons. For example, you know, I've got the 2019 CBs in behind me, which I'm reviewing in a couple of weeks. I do remember to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss out on them. But their woods, maybe not necessarily that good looking. Definitely the quality control wasn't brilliant. But, you know, these Dynapower, you know, they look good. They're built really well as well. You know, really good there. And I'm sure you guys noticed when I did a closer look on that, the little sky mark there on there. I'd love to say that wasn't me. Well, actually, the first time it wasn't me, because I did buy this second hand. The second time it was me. So exactly the same spot. Never sky my drivers, you know, don't get me wrong. I am a, you know, low handicap. I play off 8, so and I do lots and lots of testing, and you know, sometimes I can get close to skying a driver, but generally, you know, my strike pattern is pretty good on the sort of woods. The only thing I'll ever sky is a fairway wood. I just come down on it way too strongly, especially if I'm taking out on the golf course and it's wet and, you know, muddy conditions. I can just go straight under that ball. So yeah, definitely a thing that I personally need to work on is definitely my fairwood game if I want to lower that handicap, which obviously we all do. Anyway, moving on to the technology that is in this club. So we've got the PKR 360. So AI driven design, unique to each model, creates more ball speed across the entire face. Pretty standard between all clubs now, let's be honest. You know, they all bring in this, you know, AI, Callaway do it, etc., with the idea that, you know, it's not just a sweet spot there, there's a sweet spot there, sweet spot there, sweet spot there, because they realize your average golfers, even your tour professionals, aren't going to be hitting that spot every single time. You know, the idea and the big push really for nowadays is forgiveness. Distance is sort of maxed out, is you can't, you know, the face is going to be so thin, etc., and that's a big push. I will say it's not the big push in this club, and I'll explain that later in this video. Moving on, we've got open hosel construction. So the hosel here, so improved weight distribution allows for the removal of inefficient weight material and the creation of a stronger hosel infrastructure. So they've moved weight from here so they can move it around this and make this as light as possible. A lot of firms have actually been doing that. A lot of brands have been looking at the hosel, you know, because they're like, all right, we've saved weight here, we've moved weight here, you know, where else can we move weight from? And they're suddenly, all right, well, let's fix this hosel up. And a lot of them have been doing that. Sound optimized, so precision rib placement throughout the internal body for muted, powerful sound. You know, I used to watch videos and say sound isn't really that important to me. However, you know, you'd have seen me actually recently just review a Wilson Staff. I think it's no, it's over there. Wilson Staff, what was it? Titron driver, which is the loudest thing on the earth. I loved it. It was great fun, great performance, but it was so loud. I probably would stop me from putting it in the bag because it was that loud. Even though I have kept that driver, because I think it is very cool. I might play it over winter, to be fair, you know, because it is a regular shaft as well. I'm at the moment I'm extra stiff, so you know, when I'm cold and can't swing, you know, I might bring that out, but the sound does put you off. So, you know, a lot of brands are trying to really delve in, get this sounding right for all these clubs to sort of separate them out from other ones to make sure you put them in the bag. Obviously, some of you guys watch this and not care a donkeys about the sound, but, and I was personally, I was like that as well until I used that club and it was the loudest thing in the world, and it actually did put me off a bit. But anyway, moving on, so adjustable hosel. So we've got 6-way adjustable hosel to optimize face angle and shot shaping. So this is the forward, so 16.5 degrees. I could loft it up by 2 degrees and loft it down by 1 degrees. Also moving it around does change that face light angle, so do be aware of that. It's not like your Titleists, your Callaways, your Cobra, definitely your Cobras now, the DS adapts, where you can just loft it up and loft it down and keep that lie angle the same. In this situation, it does change it, so do be aware because that is going to affect your type of shot. Moving on, forged face construction. So it's a forged face, high strength 455 steel, face with high strength and high ball speed, great. And we've got a 30-gram tungsten, yep, weight that allows for lower launch and lower spin. You can tell this is a low spin bomber straight away by looking at that 30 grams right at the front. I mean, literally could not get any closer to the front of that face. This is a low spin monster. All right, so there you go, guys. There's the technology that is in this club. Now let's get down to the range. I'm going to throw some figures at you, and then we're going to come back here for the ACS Golf Scale. All right, see you in a bit. I'm down at the range with the Dynapower Carbon forward. Now let's get straight into those numbers. So on average, I had a carry of 211 yards, total distance of 244 yards, ball speed a whopping 153 miles per hour, launch angle 6 and height 46 feet, which I can imagine is right. You know, this is a low spin bomber. It's not built to get that ball up into the air, so obviously it is going to come out a little bit lower. Obviously I could have lofted up and I could have got it launched a little bit higher, but overall still happy with the numbers. Longest on the day was 229 yards, total distance 260 yards, ball speed a whopping 155 miles per hour, launch angle 7, height 54. Absolutely smoked that one. Shortest on the day though, however, was only 188 yards, total distance 217 yards, ball speed 152 miles per hour, launch angle 6, height 51. So that's quite a big drop down. It really does show the forgiveness of this club, which we'll discuss later. But generally I was around that sort of 250 mark a lot of the time, so really happy with that. And it was pretty consistent around that sort of 250 mark as well, especially consistent about the ball speed. However, when I did do a bad hit, I did get punished. Feeling wise, felt nice and powerful off the face. Felt like I just keep on going for it and going for it, and obviously looking behind the ball at it as well. It is a gorgeous club and great sound as well, as mentioned before. You know, that's something they're looking at. So here's the numbers just quickly in the table there. You know, good, well, really good numbers on average. Great longest as well. Just that shortest potentially is a little bit of a problem. One thing I will say about this club is you get great workability with this club, which is exactly what you want. You know, you want to be able to move the ball around it. It is a better player's fairway wood, and it definitely acts like that. So there you go, some really good performance from this club. And just before we get into all the details, just a shout out for the shaft I used. So Ventus TR6S, so stiff blue shaft, a Ventus blue. You know, really like the fact that you can get that as standard with your sort of Wilson Staff clubs. I will just add, it isn't the Valcor one though, but then that's a massive upsell. But to have just a standard in it, I think is a really good sell point for these clubs. Obviously, there are different, other shaft options that has come as standard. So really cool that Wilson are using them. And that's always what I really liked about TaylorMade as well, because they use a sort of standard blue sort of shafts for their fairways, etc. Really cool addition there. I think they used them, to be fair, in the last model as well. So yeah, keep on doing that. I'm a massive fan of Ventus shafts. Anyway, moving on to the numbers. So yes, on average, I had a carry of 211 yards, total distance of 244 yards, and a whopping ball speed of 153 miles per hour. All right, my swing speed has gone up. I'm sort of averaging 163 miles per hour ball speed with my driver, but to be that close to it with a fairway wood, not even a 3-wood, this is a 4-wood, it was set as a 4-wood. Very, very impressive. Launch angle 6 and height 46 feet. You can just tell it's that low spin, coming out low, not rising up, and just an absolute bullet. Longest was a whopping 229 yards, a carry, 260 yards total distance, and a ball speed 155 miles per hour. But the shortest, though, only a carry of 188 yards and a total distance of 217. Ball speed was pretty good, though, 152 still, but a big drop off there. And that's one potential problem with this club that we will discuss in a second. But let's get into the ACS golf scale. So remember, we've got 5 categories. We've got distance, looks, price, forgiveness, and feel. Nearly forgot that. Done, however, over 150 reviews so far. And I keep on forgetting the 5 things. Never mind. And that's not including reviews before I brought on the ACS golf scale. So there you go. Anyway, so remember, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. So distance, for this type of club fairways, I always include sort of mini drivers in this sort of grouping for these video series, because my idea of mini driver is more fairway wood than a driver, because, technically you can sort of hit it off the deck. It's not necessarily going to be causing you to take a driver out of the bag. You're probably going to take a fairway wood out of the bag for, sort of tighter fairways where you use the, mini driver to get a little bit more distance than the fairway wood, but, not as much as a driver, but basically keep you on that fairway. So I keep it in that sort of fairway wood category. So normally 5 out of 5 I keep for mini drivers, because naturally they're bigger clubs. They're going to be going longer than this. However, this is such a monster. I'm having to give it a 5 out of 5. I cannot not give it a 5 out of 5 due to the fact I got that 260, which, to be fair, is what I'd expect with my mini driver. Honestly, I normally I got the PXG Secret Weapon. I put it in a bag, or I put it in a fairway wood, depending on what golf course I'm playing. If it's, one with a lot of long par 5s, I tend to put a fairway wood in so I can try and get to the green in 2. If it's a shorter golf course and quite narrow fairways, and I put the mini driver in, because odds on I might use a fairway wood once, with the mini I'll probably use about 3-4 times, and I can hit that off the deck if needed. But yeah, 260, it's mammoth. That is a huge fairway wood shot. 155 ball speed, and it was 16.5. It wasn't even set as a 3-wood, and you get a 3+ in this as well. Insane. That's one thing I will mention. I did forget to say that a second ago. So you can, in this, get a 3-wood plus, just reminded myself that I forgot, which is 13.5 degrees. You can get a 3-wood, 15 degrees, a 4-wood, 16.5 degrees, which I have, a 5-wood, which is 18 degrees, and a 7-wood, which is 21 degrees. Sorry, I did forget that, and just reminded myself. So there you go. There's a little input for that. But yeah, 5 out of 5. I cannot, in my right mind, give it a 4.5 out of 5. Don't get me wrong. It probably should go in that category, because yes, it did hit that mini driver, but that's mini driver on average. But in respect of how long this thing is, in my mind, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. Have to. So there you go, 5 out of 5. And you're going to find me rarely saying 5 out of 5 for a fairway wood. Normally it would be 4.5, but that's just an absolute monster. So yeah, 5 out of 5. Feel wise, 4 out of 5. That forged face, the carbon fiber with a nice sound, muted sound, because it does have carbon fiber on the top there, which I didn't mention actually on their website. But I like it. It does sound nice. It feels good. I generally know where my miss hits are. So yeah, a good solid 4 out of 5. Feels sort of punchy and powerful off the face. Looks, giving it 4.5 out of 5. It just looks so smart. It really, really does. It's a beautiful looking fairway wood. Love the head cover. The only reason I've given it a 4.5 out of 5 is I'm just not a massive fan of gloss. You can see there just a reflection. It's just, you know, sometimes in the UK you're looking down at it and you just, you know, get reflection of clouds going over, and I find it personally quite distracting. I much prefer a matte top, but that is just my preference, so that's why I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5. On to, let's say, price next, and then we'll go to forgiveness, because I think the one sticking point with this. So price, in the UK at the moment, brand new, you can buy this for £279. Don't get me wrong, I've seen them on eBay for a little bit cheaper than that brand new. As people are starting to maybe try and get rid of stock already, because we are sort of, you know, midway through the summer. Well, yeah, midway through the summer, I'd say. USA, you're looking just under around that $330 mark. Now, compared to other brands, a QI35, £309. Okay, so cheaper than that. Cheaper than GTs, which was around £349. Cheaper than your QI35 Tour, which I'd say is more of a match to this rather than your other QI35, because they're both low spinning, better player models. You know, £379. The G440, no, G440, sorry, £319. So this is cheaper than all the others. So, you know, normally for new clubs, I give it a 2.5. Rarely give them 3, every now and again, but I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5, because it is that little bit cheaper. You can save yourself £30-40 than going for other branded models. You still get that adjustability, you get a premium shaft, and as I mentioned, you get amazing distance. So it's rare for me to give a new club a higher marking than sort of 3, well, definitely higher than 3. But I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5. I think it is really, really solid. And you can definitely find them already online second-hand market for cheaper than that. Not necessarily used cheaper, but like brand new, you know, I've seen them for like 220, 230 in the second-hand market, brand new, with options. So yeah, so plenty of great deals out there for this club. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5. Now on to the elephant in the room with this club, because this club has been built for distance. It's been built for speed, for power, for getting it down there, you know, for your better players, for workability. You know, this isn't their forgiving model. That's what the Max is. You know, this is just pure rocket fuel. And so the forgiveness is not great. So I give it 2.5 out of 5, because I think for this type of club and who this is aimed for, you know, 2.5 out of 5 is perfect. You know, it will give you that forgiveness on just slight off-centered hits. If you have big miss hits, you're going to be punished. As I was there, as I mentioned, you know, 217. You know, the rest were around that sort of 250 mark, and another one around 238. You know, it does drop off if you hit it poorly, and you will be punished. I've taken this on the golf course, hit some lovely shots with it, and then had a few being a little bit shorter than I expect, because I did not strike it well at all. So 2.5 out of 5, perfect. Plenty of forgiveness for your better player who should be looking at this club. If you're a higher handicapper who wants just some raw power, wants some distance, I wouldn't go for this, because you're just not going to get enough forgiveness in it. You know, go for like a tailor-made sim, not tailor-made sim, well, tailor-made sim to be fair, sim 2, you know, older models. But, you know, if you're looking brand new, go for your QI35 standard model. That's going to give you some good forgiveness, and it's going to give you some solid distance as well. Or your GT2s, you know, something that's in the middle with distance and forgiveness. You know, this is distance and then forgiveness, sort of a second thought in my mind. Don't get me wrong, some reviews out there do say their forgiveness is pretty good, but I don't want you guys going out and buying this and thinking, oh, you know, big off miss off it, you know, it's going to be fine. It's not. You will suffer. Okay, so yeah, forgiveness 2.5 out of 5 is exactly what I'd expect from this type of model, you know, and who it is aimed at. You know, it's not that forgiving. It's not a forgiving beast. You know, if you want good forgiveness and you're looking at the A6 Golf Scale, I'd say 4 and, well, 3.5 and above is sort of good, solid forgiveness. This is exactly what I'd expect from it, and that's why I'm giving it a 2.5, because don't get me wrong, you know, I reviewed some clubs that are really, really old, you know, with the old series now, which go in the same scale, you know, and they're the 2s and the 1s, you know, where there is nothing there. There is something here, but only for your better players. So there you go. All right, guys, so there is my review of the Wilson Dynapwr Carbon fairway wood. Beautiful, beautiful club, huge distance, you know, but do be careful about the forgiveness. So much so, I was using it, and because I will put my hands up and say my fairway wood is probably my weakest part of my game, I just don't use it enough. I don't practice it enough. I've actually gone for a TSR2, actually put that in the bag if I need to take a fairway wood now, just for more forgiveness. And that's the one thing I'll say about this. If you're not confident with your fairway woods, do look elsewhere. If you are, and you want an absolute monster off the tee or even off the deck, go for this. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review of the Wilson Dynapwr Carbon fairway wood. You know, if you did, do give it a like. Comment down below, you know, have you used Wilson, their new Dynapower range? If you have, which ones have you used? You know, and have you enjoyed them? I would love to know. And also, do remember to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so I did not miss out on what I did not miss out. So you do not miss out on weekly ACS golf reviews and more. As you can see behind me, we've got some really, really cool stuff coming up, retro and new as well, and some versus videos, and there's some other bits and bobs in there as well. All right, guys, I'll see you soon for the next ACS golf video. See you then. Bye-bye.